Eventstream sees the data. KQL Database stores the data. Real-time dashboard shows the data. But who is alerting you when something is changing? This is Activator. And most of the time people are starting build around stuff with Power Automate and you name it, which is in the duties of Activator. So today we will talk about Activator, its architecture, you will see demonstrations, and we will go through the community questions. Let's have a look at the layers, which always help me to understand stuff. So we have the discovery layer, which is our real-time hub, as always. From there, the data goes to the processing layer, which is Eventstream. And from there, you can start to decide whether you want to persist the data in the KQL database or respective event house, or whether you want to directly create alerts in Activator. So this is the first pass where you don't need to store the data. You can create alerts without storing the data. From the KQL database, you can also fire alerts with query schedules on the Activator. You can then display your data on the real-time dashboard, and there you can also set an alert on the tile. So you see, Activator is very nicely and deeply integrated in the whole toolset. Even from the real-time hub itself, you can directly create an alert in Data Activator. And in Power BI Report, you can set an alert on the visual. So what does an alert mean? What happens after an alert is raised? So you have a variety of actions like send an email, send a Teams message, run a Power Automate flow, run a pipeline, run a notebooks, run a Spark job, run a Dataflow, or run a user-defined function. So you can do almost everything, basically, from everywhere. So this is like the bottom line of Activator. Activator is accessible everywhere, and you can do everything after an alert is raised. So let's have a look on the Activator pane. So we have our pre-existing events like the telemetry warning spikes that we have created before when we went through the real-time dashboards. And we can examine this a little bit and get a feeling how that works. This was created by the real-time dashboard. And by the way, the warning also appears as email. You can see it here. So everything is great in place here. So this gives a small overview about what is configurable, so we can define the operations and the columns and the value and all that stuff. And we can define the action like Teams messages and the recipients and the subject and the headline and the message. And the message and the headline can also incorporate variables to make it a little bit more flexible. And we have sent me a test connection. One thing that you might notice is that in Activator you have quite an object-oriented approach. I used System Center Operations Manager quite a while ago, and it reminds me a little bit on that. So let's dive through this hierarchy and understand it a little bit better. So first you have an event source, like Eventstream. And the example that we'll use here is package delivery events. A package with sensitive content, in this case medicine. So event A is that package 1 has a temperature of 18 at 12 o'clock. Event B is that package 1 has a temperature of 22 at 12:05, and event C is that package 2, different package, has a temperature of 4 at 12 o'clock. When we group that as an object by package ID, then we have two remaining objects. One is package 1 and the second one is package 2, which makes sense because otherwise you would be flooded with events that don't have any real meaning. You have then properties per object. So one property is the temperature, one property might be the contents, and the second one also temperature and obviously also contents. So contents of package 1 is medicine, and the temperature is between 18 and 22, and it's 7-day retained. And out of that, we would create the following property rule. That's a property rule. It monitors the property temperature, and the filter is that it only applies when the content equals medicine, and the condition is when it becomes greater than 20, then we will get a Teams message, assuming that 20 degrees Celsius in this case is too warm. That's the idea. So when we go up again and say, okay, we have our event stream, then we have a bunch of events, and these events are grouped by objects to make it clear, because when you have, let's say, 30 events coming from one package, then you only need one alert. Yeah, and all of that we will get the properties, and we can define the rules. So let's run through the UI by creating a new object. Well, when you are coming from the SCOM side of life, it might be a little bit near. So we have this object idea of bundling several items together, and we need an object identifier. And in this case, it was empty, and so I needed to reload that. And now you see it's there, right? When we create a new object, now we can select from the unique identifiers. So that works. We can define an object name, telemetry device, and we can define our unique identifier with the device ID, and we can define additional fields that we want to carry on, and that we might want to get an action or incorporate an email that we want to send or something like that. That's the idea. So this all defines an object, the identifier and the accompanying properties that we select. And you see on the left side now, this is our created object that we have, the telemetry device. We can edit the different objects, we can delete the object, and we can create new rules on that. So we can create you see that on different UIs, different rules. So when we create a new rule, we can define property rules or event rules. In this case, it's a property rule. When we do that, we get a new property derived from an existing property. So we enhance the object by new properties. We can also define and start our alerts, our activator rules. So when we start them, they are simply started. When we activate them, they're active. They cost us all the time. So you have two different types of alerts. One is stateful and one is stateless. Stateless means that the data is just coming from the event stream and it's processed one by one. So you can be spammed, you might be spammed by events, right? Because each event is evaluated in isolation against a defined status. The stateful means that we compare to an object state. So when it becomes, let's say, greater than 30, then you will get one alert based on that. And when it changes afterwards and another rule hits, you will get one alert. And when the heartbeat is absent, then you will get one alert. So this is stateful. So these are the two different alert mechanics. In most of the time, you will prefer stateful events compared to stateless events. So when we dive a little bit deeper into the stuff, we explore that we can connect to Power Automate flows. So we will do that. So we will open, once it fired the overheating device alert, we will open a ticket and pass the device ID as an input field. We can define several input fields. We need to type them here, so I will do that. And once we have defined all the strings, we can copy our connection string, and then we can jump over to Power Automate. So we need to sign in and so on. So this fails, I think, for the first attempt. I need to re-authenticate, and I'm then thrown back to the generic interface. So I need to go back, hit the button again, and then I'm there where I want to go to. See that here. Yeah. So, and then I can enter the project's the connection string. Well, yeah, you see that here. There we go. This is the connection string, the parameter string that we have entered. And now we can head over. So once this rule is triggered, now with the plus sign, we can add actions. And in this case, we can filter, for example, to create a Microsoft to-do. This is not possible from the Data Activator side. This is possible from the Power Automate side. So that's why we incorporate Power Automate. We need to re-authenticate, and then I can configure the to-do item task here by selecting the to-do item series bucket, where it should go to, and define some values in the to-do item, like the title and so on. I can incorporate variables here, which is very, very handy. And once I did that, I can do some fine-tuning, like it's due to and so on, right? It's not relevant, I think, in our case here. Once we have finished that, we can switch back, because we started to open the flow builder and hit done, and then everything is like connected, and as an action now we can define that we will run the Power Automate flow, and because the Power Automate flow is back connected to ours and can authenticate, we can pass values. So that's the point here. You see that we, as a definition, we can select now the Power Automate flow. There we go. This is our event, and we have our definitions, like the temperature is greater than 28 degrees, and then it fires. And now I can hit select and say, okay, let's choose my Power Automate flow, which just appears here. And I can pass the parameters. It should match the parameters that I want to receive. I need to pick them. You see it here. And then we can say save and update. We have all the parameters that we have predefined. And once this threshold is reached, we will receive a new to-do. There we go. This is a new to-do that was just created. Time for our decision tree. So what's the trigger? Let's say the source is a streaming event. Then you will go with Data Activator. When your source is a scheduled query result from KQL or SQL query, then you will go with Data Activator. When your source is an M365 event, you will go with Power Automate. When your event is coming from somewhere inside of Azure, when you need complex routing and so on, you will prefer Logic Apps. When you have an HTTP request, you might want to go with Azure Functions or Logic Apps. So when you don't use Activator, then the question is, do you need streaming detection? Yes. Then consider whether you can use Activator. When no, just go with Power Automate flow. When you are in the lucky stage to use Activator, the question is, what's the action target? Email, Teams, Pipeline, Notebook, Dataflow, just use the built-in stuff. That's perfect. When you need something that is not built in, like Jira, like ServiceNow, like custom, like you name it, then just call and Power Automate Flow, and in this Power Automate Flow, you can do everything. Let's jump over to our community questions. Welcome to the community question. First question, Activator versus Power Automate. Which one do I pick? Well, I've been using Power Automator alerts for years. Now my team is pushing heavily Activator. Well, it looks a little bit like the same for me. Both are no code, both trigger something. When should I pick Activator? So the simplest question is, what's your source? If your trigger is a streaming event like IoT sensors, event sources, KQL, and so on, then you have Activator with a stateful pair object detection, which is really great. When you are coming from the M365 event side, then you are on Power Automate's home turf. Multi-step workflows and so on, well, that's perfect. You have the hybrid pattern because you can fire Power Automate from Activator. Next question. My rule is stop by I'm still being paid. Why? Well, I created a test rule, ran it for 1 day, then I hit stop. A week later, I see Activator capacity usage in my metrics app. Why? Pausing or stopping a rule doesn't stop the event listener. The event listener continues to run, so you still have the consumption until the rule is deleted. This is also documented in the docs. It's by design because when you restart the rule, it works instantly, but well, it surprises everyone at some point. Question number 3, my email isn't delivering to external email addresses. Yes, this is by design. Activator email recipients must be internal tenant addresses or addresses on verified domains. External email addresses or guest addresses are explicitly blocked. Stateless or stateful, when to use which? Well, they produce very different alerts. Value greater than 25 and stateless fires on every event where the temperature is greater than 25, right? So if your sensor reports every 5 seconds and the package stays 26 degrees Celsius for an hour, you will get 720 emails. Becomes greater than 25, fired once on entry on the bigger than 25. And if it crosses again, you will get again a firing, right? Next question. I set up an alert for my real-time dashboard tile. It's saved, but it won't fire. So this has almost one of 4 reasons. So first, the tile visual is not supported. So you have only 8 tiles that support that. It can happen that you can create the alert on other tiles, but it will not fire. Tiles use the make series. You have to use summarize and bin instead because make series is an array. The tile uses custom time ranges. So it's only supported with built-in time ranges like last 24 hours, last 1 hour, not custom time ranges. This is well documented. And the tiles KQL query doesn't use start time and end time in a where clause. The query must be filtered by that parameters. This is how Activator runs the query on schedule with the right time window. Some suggestions from the community: always test send me a test action before going live. Filter aggressively at Eventstream before events reach the Activator. That will save you CUs. Use property rules, not event rules. Because around 95% of the useful scenarios for Activator are property rules. Tag context fields with @property name in messages, so the operator see the actual values, not just generic "this rule was fired" text. And document cloud connection owners for custom actions. because Power Automate flows connections expire and often rules fail silently. These are like the pro tips. Thank you for attending this time. I think Activator is a great addition to the Fabric platform. If you want to get a notify once I release a new window, just hit subscribe on my YouTube channel, and hope to see you next time.